Good morning, everybody. I'm Mary, the Special Projects Lead at CDX Data. Thank you for joining us today. Just so everyone's aware, there is a chat function at the bottom of your screen if you're here live. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, you can go ahead and drop those down there, and we will get to them sort of later in the show. But for now, I will kick us off and give you some background on us. We are CDX Data. We are a consulting and technology services firm helping nonprofits and mission-driven organizations modernize their data and prepare for what's next. We specialize in helping organizations like yours use data and AI not just to stay afloat, but lead. And we are proud to share that CDX Data just achieved the AWS Select Tier Partner status. This isn't just a badge. It reflects the technical excellence, real-world outcomes, and trust we've built with clients. We're not just full of fluff, we're builders who deliver. Today's conversation is about how grant-dependent nonprofits, especially those focused on workforce and education, are using data and AI to cultivate resilience in a moment of unprecedented uncertainty. So today, just to give you a small overview, we'll be learning from nonprofits what we're learning from nonprofits right now. We'll go over two client case studies, like what's working and what's not. We'll do some Q&A from the audience, and then we have a special offer for nonprofits providing direct services. With that, I am excited to introduce CDX's founder and CEO, Austin Thompson.
Thank you, Mary. It's really incredible to see everybody here attending the webinar live, and we will offer the webinar on demand for folks who could not join. And I especially want to thank our clients at Community Dynamics who've been working with us for going on 4 years now. We've been supporting clients in the nonprofit sector at the intersection of data technology and change. And as Mary mentioned, Community Dynamics has launched CDX Data, which is our managed service offering that you'll hear more about in this call, but also in the coming weeks. And we want to thank our existing clients, some of you who I see are joining us on the webinar right now, for supporting this incredible mission and giving us an opportunity together to drive towards better outcomes. This year is obviously a different year. We are seeing contractions in federal funding for many organizations, including some of our clients. We know budgets have been, in some cases, cut up to 80% this year due to restrictions in federal funding. And philanthropy also has seen greater demand for fewer and fewer dollars coming from nonprofits who are grant dependent across the country. And I serve on, in addition to serving as the CEO of Community Dynamics, CDX Data, also on 2 foundation boards. And so I'm very well aware of what's taking place in light of the current crisis. And this has created, unfortunately, an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty for so many leaders across the nonprofit sector. And we want to meet this moment as CDX Data, not with fear and uncertainty, although those things are definitely present in our work, but we want to meet this moment and encourage our clients and our partners to meet this moment with resilience. The definition of resilience that CDX Data that we believe in is the definition that resilience is not about bouncing back from adversity, but resilience is about staying connected to purpose. And in this call, we're going to share some examples of client partners who have, in this moment of chaos, decided to leverage data and AI, collaborating with CDX Data to stay connected to their mission and purpose. And it's not about doing more with less. It's about doing things differently with data. Few top line insights across the landscape at CDX Data. When we talk to our clients in this moment of uncertainty, we're hearing a couple of themes. One is that centralized data is really important for better storytelling and more impactful programming. So today, before the crisis happened, a lot of organizations had diverse data sets that were fragmented in silos, and that was fine for past eras. But in this current crisis, where it's necessary to uh, be able to streamline services, be more efficient, but also to demonstrate outcomes and impact to funders who are seeing rising demand for the same amount of dollars, centralizing fragmented data is really a priority for clients that we've talked to in the current landscape. The second is automating reporting to reclaim staff time. I don't have to tell you all, when there are big strategic pivots made at foundations and grant making institutions, it requires a lot of work amongst nonprofit organizations and leaders to try to be responsive to requests for information, landscape assessments, etc. And what we're hearing from clients is that there's literally hours and hours of staff time that could be used to respond on the front lines of the crisis that is emerging in communities across the country. But instead, that time is being spent on manual reporting, pulling data from different spreadsheets, etc. So that's a big theme that we're hearing is the request from our clients to help them think through how to leverage technology to automate reporting in order to reclaim some of that staff time. And then the final is using AI to match people to services faster. In this moment where there's so much rising demand and budgets are not necessarily growing, they're in some cases being restricted, there is kind of a question emerging from our clients about, hey, AI, we're hearing a lot of hype about it. How can it actually be put to best use to change the trajectory and outcomes for the constituencies that we serve? So those are some of the overall client insight themes that at CDX Data we've been hearing in the landscape. I'd love to share two case studies quickly from some of our client partners that I think illustrate some of those themes in real time. And as you're listening, what I would encourage you all to do, whether you're here with us today or you're watching this on demand later, is to think about how these use cases might apply to a situation in your own organization. So the first case study is a food service nonprofit based in Los Angeles that CDX Data has really been honored to work with over the last few months. And their mission is to match farmers that have fresh produce to communities who are food insecure. And the team at this nonprofit has their entire system before we started working with them manual. So everything from, kind of insourcing the fresh produce, the paying of invoices on the other side, and managing some of that inventory. Although the inventory of food, they don't have a storage location, they were kind of quickly, just in time, delivering food support to communities. And they were doing all of this manually and still doing an incredible job. But it got to the point, as demand grew for their services, they got overwhelmed with those manual processes. And so our task working with them at CDX Data, working with this food service nonprofit, was to start from a first principles perspective to find out not what's the best technology solution. They had explored different software as a service technologies and spoken to vendors, but we didn't start with technology. We started off with what's the best process to meet your mission? How do we optimize your existing process to align with the best possible process? And then what are the built-in automations that work backwards from an ideal process to deliver value for the food insecure communities that you serve? So we started with process, not technology. And we did weeks of intensive plan and design work with the food service nonprofit in LA. And from there, we built and migrated their data that they had in spreadsheets. Using that new process, working backwards from that new process, we migrated that data into a new application for their food operation in Los Angeles. And we also built in data visualizations to that system so that they can see in real time how efficient and resilient their operations are. As a result, we have calculated that we've literally saved hundreds of hours per week in manual work that the food service nonprofit is now freed up to utilize for real relationship building with their clients, to sense, probe, and respond to the changing landscape that we've seen in communities across the country in this moment. So less time manual reporting and spreadsheets, more time face to face and in community with farmers and with recipients who are food insecure. And this end-to-end system that we co-designed and built with them, we think over time will help increase client satisfaction. And they've just gone live maybe 3 weeks ago with a pilot, and so data is still coming in. And the early information we're getting in the feedback loop from their clients is that this end-to-end system that CDX Data partnered with the food service nonprofit on has definitely improved client satisfaction. And so, again, this is one example, this story of how CDX Data, our clients, are kind of responding and leveraging data and technology to be more resilient in the heart of the challenges that communities are facing now. Another, and my final case study I want to share with folks as an example of how people are adapting and responding in real time is moving from the food service organization in Los Angeles to talk about a sustainability focused philanthropic intermediary that we have the pleasure of working with as one of our clients, who came to us and basically said, hey, we have hundreds of grantees. We're struggling with the diversity of data from all of these grantees. And some of you on this webinar may be in a similar position as an intermediary where you're the backbone and you've got a network of projects or community-based organizations that you are supporting in your network. And so this intermediary came to us and said, we're committed to trust-based philanthropy. So we want organizations to be able to report to us in whatever format, whether it's a spreadsheet or a CSV file or a PDF. We want them to be able to report in the way that works for them. But at the same time, we've got to be able to kind of synthesize what's the impact that we're having collectively moving towards our values and our vision of the world across the network. And so they talked about how painful it was in order for them to do that synthesis manually. That process of cleaning the data, I'm sure some of you on the call who've ever worked with spreadsheets, and you get spreadsheets from hundreds of organizations, there's different columns and different rows, and there's a lot of clean data that's duplicated. So there's a lot of cleaning of and deduplicating that data. There's missing data points. It's chaotic, right? And also transforming that data, taking the data that is coming from all of these hundreds of grantees and putting it into a unified framework, working backwards from either a logic model or results-based accountability framework. This is really hard, right? And it costs hundreds and hundreds of hours just to prepare one funder report because you have to do this process starting from scratch every time. So the intermediary came to us, and our task was to figure out whether there was a way to allow these hundreds of grantees to bring all of those diverse data sources and the different formats into a unified system, and for them, and then from there to automate and clean and transform that data for all of their grantees in a way that they could get summary level insights leveraging artificial intelligence. And we spent just a few weeks with them on the plan and design phase. Before we started thinking through what's the technology, should we be using AI, we started with data strategy. And we did a thin slice demonstration with them using mock data. Because as you all know, these with hundreds of grantees and even with a large intermediary staff, rolling out a big change overnight it is not practical. So we did a thin slice demonstration with this intermediary using mock data from the exact types of diverse data sources that they would see in the real world. And we spent a ton of time with them just really talking through and figuring out, what would it take to automate and clean this data, to automate the cleaning and transformation of this data in a way that could help move the dial towards better outcomes and grant summarization. As a result of this work we did in the thin slice, I'm happy to share preliminarily, we're estimating that we've saved them hundreds of hours per month in manual data cleaning and transformation work. And we think that this, based on our preliminary estimations of this thin slice demonstration, have saved them thousands of dollars in labor costs. A lot of times, the way that we approach problems is by throwing people at the problems, and that's one solution. But in our current environment, where the funding landscape is uncertain, what we saw in this thin slice demonstration is that they can actually save a lot of money through the automation of that cleaning and transformation process. And last but not least, we're seeing in the preliminary results that we've helped improve data accuracy. So anybody who's worked with spreadsheets and done reports for funders, or you've just tried to upload your documents into ChatGPT, which limits you to 10, but you upload your documents. There's a lot in AI, they call it hallucination. So you've talked to ChatGPT and you say, can you summarize these reports? And it spits out information that's frankly not true. So with CDX Data partnering with this intermediary, we actually saw, in addition to saving time, saving money, we're actually beginning to see preliminarily some increased data accuracy there and reducing the amount of errors. And so really excited about this work with the philanthropic intermediary. We should be coming out soon with a public case study here that hopefully, we can share more information with you all about this. But given what we're seeing in the landscape overall, I think both of these two use cases, the first use case with the food service provider in Los Angeles and our work at CDX Data to support them in the automation of their workflows, and in the second use case, with a national philanthropic intermediary in the sustainability space, they speak to a larger shift. And that shift is about in a moment where it's understandable why many organizations would contract and double down on practices that are too slow, too expensive, not working to deliver outcomes at a moment that requires us to deliver on outcomes and demonstrate impact. These two stories show that another path is possible. And the big takeaways from these, before I pass it back to Mary, see if there's any questions for folks. The takeaways from these two use cases that we're taking with us at CDX Data into work with the other clients, and hopefully some of you who are not yet clients but would like to partner with us on this journey, is first that smart investments in technology, even in the midst of the current crisis, are absolutely necessary. So we know budgets are tight, the fundraising landscape is uncertain, and you might have a reaction, let's cut back on investments in new technology capabilities. And we think in a crisis like today, where grant-dependent organizations are trying to find their footing, cloud-based technologies can actually save you money. They can save you time and even help you reinvent your business model. And I say business model, and people look at me, what do you mean by that? Well, nonprofit is a tax status. It's not a business model. And data is not just an asset that sits in a spreadsheet somewhere. It can be leveraged in order to create new growth opportunities for the organization. And so technology, smart investments in technology, even in the contracting external environment, can really save you money, save you time, and help deliver better outcomes for communities. The second thing that I think is a general takeaway is that technology is not enough on its own. So CDX Data is learning that the primary innovation is not in technology, actually. Although I just made the point that investing in technology is important, the primary innovation we're seeing in the landscape is around process. And CDX Data, we're not a solution as a service or software as a service vendor selling a solution to our clients. We are more like trusted partners with our clients, and we take them through a rigorous plan and design phase first before we try to architect a technology solution, because we're finding that many nonprofits who don't have a trusted advisor with them are spending money ad hoc on different SaaS solutions, none of which connect to each other, speak to each other, and you're ending up wasting a lot of money. And what we're finding is that things are falling apart really at that process level. And our encouragement to those of you on the webinar is that nonprofits and mission-driven orgs should think about strategy and find trusted partners like CDX Data who you can work with to think through what that strategy is. So with that, I'm really, really, really excited, Mary, to hear if there are any questions. I think that resilience is something that is critical in the current period that we're all living through together. We know that data and AI can be leveraged to cultivate greater resilience, and CDX Data wants to partner with organizations and leaders to lean into that promise. So Mary, I'll pass it back to you for questions.
Sweet. Thanks, Austin. Feel free, everyone who is here live, drop some questions in the chat below. But I will actually start us off asking Austin, what is your advice for nonprofits that feel behind or overwhelmed by technology right now?
Yeah, so I think that question brings up for me, Mary, that generally when we feel feelings of overwhelm, it's because we are not focused. And people feel overwhelmed thinking about technology because often they haven't really set priorities about what outcomes are most important for them to achieve first before they start thinking about technology. And if you're not clear about outcomes and you're not clear about priority and prioritization and sequence or processes that work backwards from outcomes that you want to drive for communities, it's going to be very difficult to make sense of the technology landscape. And there's incentives for many vendors who are technology vendors to sell you on their one solution. And if you don't take a step back first, you can feel very overwhelmed if you haven't taken that step back to kind of think through what your overall strategy is, and then architect a set of technologies solutions or no technology solution based on that strategy. So I think you will be less anxious and less overwhelmed if you find a good partner like CDX Data who will take the time to work with you in a plan design phase to really do an audit of what your current strategy is around data and technology, and then using that baseline assessment, architecting where you want to go from there. And I will say, Mary, I think you'll talk about this a little bit later in the webinar before we close, but CDX Data is offering a free audit to any organization that's watching this right now, or if you're an intermediary on the call and you have organizations that you work with that you think could benefit from a free consultation with CDX Data to give them some thoughts about what an effective strategy might be before taking that next step to start looking at different technology solutions.
Fantastic. I do see one that says, how does CDX balance AI innovation with ethical and inclusive design?
That's another great question. So I think Mary from CDX Data earlier in the webinar mentioned that we just became partners, select tier partners with Amazon Web Services, AWS. They're one of the biggest cloud providers focused on the public sector, and we're partnering with them. And one of the things that we learned from AWS at their last Imagine conference in Washington, D.C., which is a conference for nonprofits and public sector leaders, was the core dimensions of responsible AI. And what AWS has found, as they work backwards from real practical use cases working with nonprofits and public sector officials, is that there's a race to market different AI solutions, but the trust is missing. And so many nonprofits rightfully are skeptical about all of the influx of SaaS solutions offering AI without thinking about trust. And so the core dimensions of responsible AI, according to AWS, are one, fairness, considering the impacts on different groups of stakeholders. The second is explainability, that responsible AI understands and evaluates system outputs so that you can kind of trace back and understand how the outputs that AI is producing work backwards from your values, your mission, and your outcomes. The third is privacy and security. And this is about making sure that the data and the models, all of the back end sources that these AI models are using, are maintaining privacy and security. And AWS is known as a cloud provider of one of the most skilled in data privacy and security. The fourth is safety, preventing harmful system output and misuse. I don't have to tell people, but there's a lot of examples we're seeing with some of the new chat GPT features that are coming out, where you can see people using those systems toward harm and misuse. Controllability, having mechanisms to monitor and steer AI system behavior. So not just, kind of letting AI do its thing, but controllability is one of the most important core dimensions of responsible AI. Then veracity and robustness, achieving correct system outputs. There's a lot of AI that's in hallucination. So many people are marketing AI solutions, but then you go under the hood and they're giving you wrong information. So you want that veracity and robustness. Then there's governance, incorporating best practices into the actual AI supply chain. And finally, transparency, which is about enabling stakeholders to make informed choices about their engagement with the AI system. So again, these are core dimensions of responsible AI from AWS and CDX Data. We've actually got a technical team in-house that is applying these core dimensions of responsible AI to our managed services that we offer to clients. So one more reason why that kind of trusted partnership model and approach is very valuable for our clients, and we would encourage others to partner with us on their journeys as they consider leveraging AI.
Fantastic. I am not seeing any more questions in the chat, so I will go ahead and wrap it up from here. Austin, you did a fantastic job. We appreciate all of the info you were able to share on the webinar. And we thank you all who are here live for joining us, and those who are watching later, we thank you for watching. As Austin mentioned earlier, and as a thank you to you all because we care so deeply about this work, we are offering a free technology audit and consultation to any nonprofit doing any direct workforce or education services. I'm going to pop up a little QR code here for everyone with Austin's information on there as well for anyone interested. If you're an intermediary or a funder, as Austin mentioned, we encourage you to share this offer with your grantees and partners. We are here to help. Feel free to reach out to us either via that QR code if you can scan it on your computer or device. Otherwise, you can email me at scheduling@cdxdata.com or austin@cdxdata.com. And on behalf of the CDX Data team, thank you again and stay resilient.